Hello, everyone, and welcome back to StoryNest Podcast. I'm really happy you're joining me for another episode. Whether you're listening while driving, taking a walk, doing housework, or simply relaxing, thank you for making this podcast part of your day. In our last episode, we talked about one of the biggest questions English learners ask. Why am I still not fluent? We discovered that fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about communicating. We also learned that simply memorizing vocabulary and grammar isn't enough. To become fluent, English has to become part of your daily life. Today, I'd like to explore another question that many learners wonder about. Can adults really learn English the same way children learn their first language? You've probably heard people say things like, "Children learn languages so easily. If only I had started when I was 5 years old. I'm too old to become fluent now." Maybe you've even said these things yourself. At first, they sound believable. After all, children seem to learn languages without opening grammar books or memorizing vocabulary lists. They simply grow up surrounded by language. Month after month, they begin to understand. Then they start speaking. Little by little, they become fluent. So it's natural to think, adults don't have that advantage. But here's something that might surprise you. The real story is much more interesting and much more encouraging. Let's imagine two people. The first is a 3-year-old child. The second is a 30-year-old adult. Both of them begin learning a completely new language today. Who do you think will learn faster during the first few months? Many people immediately answer the child. But research tells a different story. Adults often learn faster in the beginning. Yes, you heard that correctly. Adults usually understand grammar rules more quickly. They build vocabulary faster. They recognize patterns more easily. And they can connect new information to things they already know. So why do children often become more fluent in the long run? The answer isn't because their brains are magical. It's because their environment is different. Children don't study a language for 30 minutes a day. They live inside it. From the moment they wake up until they go to sleep, they're surrounded by language. They hear thousands of words every single day. Parents talk to them. Brothers and sisters talk to them. Friends talk to them. Television, songs, games, stories. Everything around them is language. Now compare that with the average adult learning English. Maybe they study for 20 minutes. Then they spend the rest of the day using their native language. It's not a fair comparison. The difference isn't age. The difference is exposure. Think about this for a moment. Imagine you move to an English-speaking country tomorrow. You don't know many people. You need to buy food. You need to ask for directions. You need to speak English every day. What do you think would happen after 6 months? Would your English improve? Almost certainly. Not because your brain suddenly changed, but because your daily life changed. Your environment forced you to use English. That's exactly what children experience from the day they're born. The good news is that you don't have to move to another country to create an English-rich environment. Today, thanks to the internet, you can bring English into your life wherever you are. You can listen to podcasts while cooking, watch videos during lunch, read short articles before bed, change your phone's language to English, follow English creators on social media, join online communities where people communicate in English. Little by little, your world begins to include more English. And that's when something wonderful starts to happen. English stops feeling like a school subject. It starts feeling like a real language. There's another important difference between children and adults. Children are not afraid to sound silly. A child might say a sentence that's completely wrong. Everyone smiles. Someone gently corrects them. Then they try again. No embarrassment, no fear. Just learning. Adults are often the opposite. We think before every sentence. We worry about pronunciation. We worry about grammar. We worry about what other people will think. Sometimes we become so focused on avoiding mistakes that we stop speaking altogether. But remember this. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner. Every confident English speaker has made mistakes, probably thousands of them. The question isn't, will I make mistakes? The question is, will I keep going after I make them? Because that's where real progress begins.
So, if children don't have a magical brain, what exactly can we learn from them? Actually, quite a lot. Let's look at some of the habits that make children such successful language learners. The first habit is simple. They listen far more than they speak. Think about a baby. Before saying the first word, the baby spends months listening. Every conversation, every bedtime story, every song, every laugh, every question. The brain is collecting information all the time. Without realizing it, the child begins to recognize sounds, rhythms, and patterns. By the time the child says a first sentence, thousands of hours of listening have already happened. Now, compare that with many adult learners. They often want to speak after only a few lessons. Then they become frustrated because speaking feels difficult. But speaking is the result of listening. The more understandable English you hear, the easier speaking becomes. That's why listening isn't something you do before speaking. Listening is what builds speaking. The second habit children have is repetition. Children love hearing the same story again and again and again. Parents sometimes wonder, why does my child want the same book every night? The answer is simple. Repetition makes learning easier. Each time the child hears the story, the words become more familiar. The sentences become more predictable. Confidence grows. Adults often do the opposite. They finish one podcast, then immediately search for a different one. They watch one video, then move to another topic. New information is exciting, but repeated information is powerful. Don't be afraid to listen to the same podcast twice or 3 times. You might be surprised by how much more you understand each time. In fact, the second time you listen is often when real learning begins. The third habit is curiosity. Children ask questions constantly. What is this? Why? How? When? Their curiosity keeps them learning all day. As adults, we sometimes lose that habit. Instead of asking questions, we worry about getting the right answer. But curiosity is one of the greatest learning tools you have. When you hear a new expression, don't just memorize it. Ask yourself, when do people use this? Can I think of another example? Have I heard this before? These simple questions help your brain build stronger connections. There's another habit I really admire. Children don't translate every sentence. When a child learns the word apple, they don't translate it into another language. They simply connect the word with the object. Over time, the word creates its own meaning. Adults often translate everything, English, back to their native language, then back into English again. This process takes time, and it slows down conversations. Instead, try connecting English directly to images, actions, and situations. If you hear the word rain, imagine rain. Don't translate it. If you hear coffee, picture a cup of coffee. The more direct these connections become, the faster your English will feel. Now I'd like you to imagine something. Imagine learning English the same way you watch your favorite television series. You don't stop every 30 seconds. You don't look up every unknown word. You simply enjoy the story. At first, you understand only part of it, but with each episode, you recognize more vocabulary, more expressions, more pronunciation patterns. Eventually, things that once felt impossible become familiar. That's exactly how language grows, not through pressure, through repeated exposure. One of the biggest mistakes adults make is believing they must understand everything. Let me tell you a secret. You don't. Even native speakers don't understand every word they hear. Sometimes they hear an unfamiliar expression. Sometimes they miss part of a conversation. They simply continue listening. They use the surrounding context to understand the message. You can do the same. The next time you listen to English, don't panic when you hear an unknown word. Keep listening. Focus on the main idea. Often, the sentence before and after will explain the meaning. Learning to stay calm during uncertainty is an important language skill. Let's try a small experiment. Suppose I tell you this story. Emma woke up late. She looked outside. The streets were wet. She grabbed an umbrella before leaving. Maybe you don't know the word wet, but can you guess? The streets, the umbrella, the weather. Most learners immediately understand that it probably rained. That's context. Your brain is already smarter than you think. Trust it. The more stories you hear, the better you'll become at understanding meaning without translating every single word. And that's one of the biggest steps toward fluency. So remember, children don't learn quickly because they're perfect. They learn because they spend thousands of hours listening. They repeat things naturally. They stay curious. They aren't afraid of mistakes. And they experience language every single day. The good news? Every one of those habits can become part of your life too, no matter how old you are.
So far, we've learned something important. Children don't succeed because they're younger. They succeed because they spend more time with the language. They listen, they repeat, they stay curious, and they aren't afraid to make mistakes. The good news is that you can build these same habits into your own life. Let's talk about how. Step 1. Create an English environment. You don't need to live in London. You don't need to move to New York. You don't even need to travel. What you need is more English in your daily life. Ask yourself a simple question. How many minutes do I actually hear English every day? Not study, not grammar exercises, just hear English. If the answer is only 10 or 15 minutes, that's a great place to improve. Try adding English to moments that are already part of your routine. Listen while making breakfast. Play a podcast during your commute. Watch a short video while taking a break. Read a few pages before going to bed. These small moments add up. Over a week, over a month, over a year, they become hundreds of hours of exposure. And that's exactly what helps children learn so naturally. Step 2. Choose content you can understand. Some learners believe they should always challenge themselves with difficult English. But if you understand only 10%, you'll probably become frustrated. Instead, choose content where you understand most of the message. Maybe not every word, but enough to follow the conversation. When you understand the main idea, your brain starts filling in the gaps. That's where real learning happens. As your level improves, you can slowly move to more challenging material. Learning is like climbing stairs, one step at a time. Step 3. Repeat without feeling guilty. Many adults think, I've already listened to this episode, I should find something new. But repetition isn't a sign that you're not improving. It's one of the fastest ways to improve. The first time you listen, you understand the story. The second time, you notice new words. The third time, you begin to recognize pronunciation and rhythm. By the fourth time, you may even start predicting the next sentence. That's not boring, that's progress. Professional musicians practice the same piece many times. Athletes repeat the same movements every day. Language learners should do the same. Step 4. Think in simple English. You don't need complicated sentences. Start with your everyday life. When you wake up, think, I'm feeling a little tired today. When you're making lunch, think, I'm cutting some vegetables. When you leave the house, I hope the weather stays nice. These small thoughts train your brain to use English naturally. At first, you may stop often to search for words. That's okay. Don't give up. The goal isn't speed. The goal is building a new habit. Little by little, those simple thoughts will come more easily. And one day, you'll notice something exciting. You'll think in English without even realizing it. Step 5. Celebrate small wins. This is something many learners forget. We're so focused on becoming fluent that we ignore our progress. But progress isn't only measured by big achievements. It's also measured by small victories. Maybe today you understood a podcast without reading the transcript. Maybe you remembered a phrase you learned last week. Maybe you spoke one full sentence without translating it first. These moments matter. Celebrate them. They remind you that you're moving forward. Confidence doesn't appear overnight. It grows from many small successes. Now, I'd like to tell you about another learner. Her name is Anna. When Anna started learning English, she believed she needed to study for hours every day. She bought several grammar books, she downloaded many apps, she tried to memorize hundreds of new words every week. After a few months, she felt exhausted. She wasn't enjoying English anymore. One day, she changed her approach. Instead of trying to learn everything, she focused on enjoying the language. She listened to podcasts while walking. She watched short videos about cooking because she loved cooking. She read simple stories before bed. She repeated her favorite episodes more than once. Most importantly, she stopped asking, how much did I study today? Instead, she asked, did I spend time with English today? That small change made a huge difference. A few months later, Anna wasn't just learning English. She was living with English. And that's when her confidence really began to grow. So if there's one idea I'd like you to remember from today's episode, it's this. Don't try to learn English the way you study for an exam. Try to make English a natural part of your life. When you enjoy the process, you're much more likely to stay consistent. And consistency is where fluency begins.
As we come to the end of today's episode, I'd like to leave you with one important thought. Maybe you've spent years believing that you're too old to learn English well. Maybe you've compared yourself to children and thought, if only I had started earlier. But today, I hope you see things differently. Children don't succeed because they're children. They succeed because they're surrounded by language. They hear it every day. They use it every day. They don't expect perfection, and they never stop trying. The wonderful news is that you can do exactly the same. You may not be able to become a child again, but you can create the habits that help children succeed, and those habits are available to you starting today. Let's quickly review what we've learned. First, adults are not bad language learners. In fact, adults often learn faster than children in the early stages because they already understand how learning works. Second, the biggest difference is exposure. Children spend thousands of hours listening to language. The more English you bring into your daily life, the more natural it will become. Third, don't be afraid to repeat the same content. Every time you listen again, your brain notices something new. Repetition isn't boring. It's one of the most effective ways to learn. Fourth, think in simple English whenever you can. You don't need perfect sentences. Small thoughts practiced every day become natural conversations over time. And finally, celebrate your progress. Don't wait until you're fluent to feel proud. Be proud every time you understand a little more than yesterday. Every small step matters. Now I'd like to give you a challenge for this week. For the next 7 days, choose one English podcast episode. It can even be this one. Listen to it 3 different times. The first time, just enjoy it. The second time, pay attention to useful expressions. The third time, repeat a few sentences out loud. Notice how much easier the third listening feels compared to the first. That's your brain learning, not through pressure, but through repetition. I'd also like you to answer one simple question. If you could learn English exactly like a child, what habit would you copy first? Would it be listening more, repeating stories, not being afraid of mistakes, or staying curious every day? I'd love to hear your answer in the comments. Reading your experiences helps build a community where we can all learn together. And now, let me tell you about our next episode. Have you ever noticed that you can remember the story of a movie for years, but forget a vocabulary list after only a few days? Why does that happen? What makes stories so powerful for language learning, and how can they help you remember English more naturally? That's exactly what we'll explore in our next episode. Why stories are the secret to learning English. We'll discover how stories help your brain remember vocabulary, improve listening, and make speaking feel more naturally. If you've ever wondered why storytelling is such an effective learning tool, you won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I truly appreciate you being here. Every episode you listen to, every minute you spend with English, every small habit you build brings you one step closer to your goal. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Learning English isn't about becoming someone else. It's about opening new doors, discovering new opportunities, and connecting with more people around the world. So be patient with yourself, trust the process, and enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to StoryNest Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow the podcast and share it with someone who is also learning English. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, keep growing. And remember, fluency isn't built in one day. It's built one day at a time. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.